Good afternoon, Professor Earl. So, back in the office again. It's a bit cold and it's a little rainy outside, so I figured why not come to the trusty coach's office. So I was sitting out there listening to the podcast for this week. Got my trusty note card as always. It's kind of full today because I kind of touched on a bunch of different things, but a couple of things. I'll just go down the list. At the beginning, I talked about the clerk who refused to give out a marriage license. They kind of talked about the vibe shift being real. They also talked about a situation where a transgender wanted to have a surgery who was 10 years old. Then they kind of mentioned an increase in IVF, which stands for in vitro fertilization, which, as we kind of talked about in class today, where you talk about God problems or like things that God wants to do and does on purpose versus things that we do that have nothing to do with God, and I think that's one of those. It also talked about a quote that's really stood out for me from this thing, is they said, the Bible has authority not because it's true, but because it has God's authority. And that, to me, I don't really think I need to explain much. I think that's the words that were in that quote have all the power. I think it's very true. Going down the line, they also talked about women being higher in certain professions and like the Title IX kind of stuff. And then they kind of talked about, which I'm going to talk more about, men and women dominated societies or worlds and how bad that could be. Which when I hear that, they talk about that towards the very end of the video, but when I think about that, the verse obviously that comes to mind, which I'm sure would come to yours too, is Genesis 1:27-8. So I have it pulled up on my laptop right here. I'll just read it. But so it says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Verse 28. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. And so we talked about this several times in class, and you kind of debated it, but not really. And I think there's one way, if I'm being honest, that God created us as humans, as people, to live and to have a relationship with. Not saying you can't be friends with one another, but obviously sexually. So that verse was very powerful. So the point of obviously what I just read, the Genesis 1:27-28, and then the quote that I'll read again if you didn't catch it.